Hello. Thanks
Hi.
for taking the time to talk to us today. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Hi, I'm Debbie Brown. I'm actually from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My husband is Stefan, and he's a German citizen. And I moved to Germany 23 years ago. And we're married, and we have 2 children, Angela and Robin. Angela is 20, and Robin is 15. And both of the children have German and U.S. citizenship.
How did you meet your husband?
I was a high school student at Divine Savior, an all-girls Catholic high school, and my husband's parents who wanted him to improve his English, so they sent him to the United States, and he was staying with friends of ours from Marquette High School. And the 2 of us met in summer, and we always had fun. And then after a few years, we got together, and after a while, we realized this was it. True love. Yeah.
And was it hard to decide to live in Germany as opposed to the U.S.?
For me, it wasn't a hard decision at all. From my friends in high school, a lot of my friends from Milwaukee wanted to move to Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, and I was always completely happy to be in Wisconsin. And the irony of it is, from all of my high school friends, I live the farthest away of anyone. So I would say I would choose to be with my husband wherever he would be. It just so happens that he's in Germany. And the difficulty of being in Germany for me would be the distance from my family.
And was it hard did you know German before you moved to Germany?
I didn't, in high school I took Latin, so I didn't know German before I met my husband. And since we've known each other since we were 17, we still to this day speak English with each other. I started taking German as a night school when I realized I was thinking about moving to Germany. And then when I moved to Germany, I took I think 6 months of an intensive German class in Germany, in Frankfurt. And so I didn't know German. I didn't know very much German before I moved there.
But now obviously you're bilingual.
I'm bilingual now. I still speak English with my husband.
And your children? Or
I speak English. I try to speak English with my children as often as I can. They would prefer to speak German, of course, and they might answer German if I say something to them in English. But if I would be talking, I would be speaking English.
Okay, great. And how often do you get back to the United States? Can you explain that your family is still here?
Yes, my family and my father and sisters are still in Milwaukee, and I get back once to twice a year. When the children were smaller, I just got back once a year. Now we're a little more flexible, and we like to visit.
Yeah. So when you moved to Germany, when you were there about 20 years ago, how would you communicate with your family back here in Milwaukee?
I guess we would always talk on the telephone, and it would be approximately once a week. And back then, I would say it was fairly expensive to call long distance, so it would more be a limited calling. We never wrote letters, and one thing that still remains a problem is the time difference. Between Frankfurt and Milwaukee is a 7-hour time difference. So typically when I would have time to talk, Milwaukee would still be sleeping. And when Milwaukee has time to talk, I might be sleeping. So that remains a challenge to talk live. Today we communicate with emails or often with WhatsApp, and it's an easier way of getting direct information to people, although if the other person is sleeping, then they still can't get that direct information.
And would you say, I mean, over the 20 years, communicating has become easier, obviously?
Communicating has become easier and more affordable, if you want. This is maybe a crazy example, but when my husband and I were dating and I was still living in the United States, there was 1 month where my telephone bill was $500. And that's probably just from talking 4 times for an hour. So it was very expensive. So I think the cost, now you can communicate often free if you have the right provider for your telephone. We can call the United States for free within our plan. I think like my sister, she has a plan where it doesn't cost anything. It depends on how often you talk.
Well, and you just showed me with the WhatsApp app
Yes, yeah.
that you can now call
Right.
using Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Cool,
So that
right?
works out nicely.
And then my second question would be, could you tell me a little bit, kind of reflect on how teens in Germany use their devices?
Yeah. So again, our daughter is almost 20 and our son is 16, and a lot of the teenagers have smartphones. Our children ended up getting our old smartphones. So just recently, I guess when our daughter turned, doesn't make a difference,
Yeah,
but it was just now with her 19 years, she got her very first own brand new smartphone. And that's the way a lot of Germans do it, that the parents get a business phone, and then when their plan is over, they gift it to their children.
Right.
So we notice in our family that our son is much more dependent on his phone than our daughter is, although that might be personality type. Our son would almost always have his phone with him. Our daughter, for example, she would leave her phone in her room at home if we were in the kitchen. We have a rule at home, nobody can even touch their phone during a meal. That's our personal rule, because otherwise people would be texting all the time. And we notice that because of texting, our children don't telephone with their friends very often. It's more often texting than telephone.
So similar to the United States.
Yes.
Good. Is there anything else you would want my students to know about technology in Germany?
Well, I haven't asked you, Nicole, how it is handled in the United States. At the high school where my son is now my daughter is at the university, but at the high school, the rule is if a phone is noticed during class, the phone is confiscated by the teacher. And that's one.
And is that really held true? Do the students follow that?
I think the students then do follow it. I'm sure there's a little bit of secret texting under the desks.
Yeah.
But if a child would get caught, then the phone would be confiscated and would have to be picked up from the principal at the end of the day.
The parent?
No, the child, but.
From the principal.
But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, it's a problem we have. We want to encourage technology, and for them, sometimes it's appropriate for them to use their device to look something up with the Wi-Fi, or maybe to take a poll or do some survey. But a big problem is that they are using their phones during class.
Yeah.
And it becomes then, we have to walk around and tell them to put their phones away. We generally try not to take the phones because we know they're so dependent on the phone, but then they might get a detention or something. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today, Debbie.
Thank you, Nicole.